The Grey is a survival drama film that follows the journey of a group of oil rig workers whose plane crashes deep in the frozen wilderness of Alaska, placing them in a brutal fight for survival against nature, their own fears, and a relentless pack of wolves that soon stalk them. The story begins with John Otway, a man hired as a marksman to protect rig workers from wild animals in the harsh Arctic region. Otway is deeply troubled, haunted by the memory of his wife, whose presence lingers in his thoughts but is never fully explained in the beginning, contributing to a sense of melancholy and emotional detachment. His life at the base is one of isolation, surrounded by rowdy oil workers, each coping with the harsh work environment in their own way. Otway is skilled, observant, and solitary, and in the film's early moments, he is seen contemplating suicide, but the sound of a distant wolf howling halts him, hinting at the internal struggle he carries. Soon after, Otway and the other workers board a plane to return home. The conditions are harsh, and during the flight, turbulence begins to threaten the aircraft. The plane violently shakes, alarms sound, and oxygen masks drop as the passengers panic. In the chaos, Otway experiences a surreal moment of calmness, as though accepting what is happening. The plane eventually crashes in a devastating impact, scattering debris and bodies across a frozen expanse of snow and broken metal. Otway awakens among the wreckage, injured but alive, and immediately begins helping survivors. The crash scene is chaotic and brutal, with screaming wind, snow, and freezing temperatures creating an overwhelming sense of danger. Among the survivors, there are only a handful of men left from the numerous passengers on board. Otway swiftly assumes a leadership role due to his knowledge of the wilderness and the threats that exist within it. He helps calm the men and tends to the wounded, but the group soon learns that they face another danger besides the cold. As night falls, strange noises echo from the darkness, and Otway recognizes the sound of wolves. When one of the injured men is dragged away and killed in the darkness, the remaining survivors realize they are being watched and hunted by a pack of territorial wolves defending their domain. Panic and fear begin spreading among the group, who are already exhausted, injured, and traumatized by the crash. Otway explains the nature of wolves, how they protect their territory, and the likelihood that the pack sees the survivors as threats. He tries to guide the group with logic and experience, insisting they must move away from the wreckage deeper into the forest to avoid remaining within the wolves' hunting grounds. Despite disagreements and fear, the men follow him, gathering supplies and preparing for a brutal journey on foot through deep snow, freezing temperatures, and unforgiving wilderness. The men trudge through the snow, struggling physically and emotionally. The loss of their friends in the crash, the cold, and the constant dread of wolves begins to wear them down. One of the group members, Burke, begins suffering from pneumonia or altitude sickness, coughing blood and weakening rapidly. Otway tries to encourage him, but Burke collapses under a tree and passes away quietly, the cold and exhaustion overwhelming him. The men are forced to confront the reality that survival may be impossible for all of them, and with each death, morale drops further. Otway tries to keep their spirits up by guiding them with practical advice and sharing memories, though he is still haunted by recurring visions of his wife lying in bed, whispering to him, adding to the emotional depth of his character and the sense of personal loss he carries. As the group continues forward, the wolves become more aggressive. They stalk the men day and night, picking them off one by one. The atmosphere becomes filled with dread, as the wilderness seems endless and uncaring. Tempers begin to flare within the shrinking group. Diaz, one of the more rebellious and cynical survivors, constantly challenges Otway's decisions, arguing that Otway is no more qualified to lead than any of them. Their conflict reflects the group's crumbling cohesion and the increasing pressure of survival. However, in moments of reflection, Diaz reveals more depth, confessing that he is afraid and exhausted, becoming one of the film's more complex characters. In one tense sequence, the group comes upon a deep ravine with a massive fallen tree stretched across it, providing the only way forward. They decide to climb across the crude makeshift bridge, but the danger of the situation is immediately evident. During the attempt, one of the men, Lewis, loses his grip and falls, caught only by a rope tied around him. Before he can be pulled up, wolves descend upon him at the bottom of the ravine, killing him brutally. The rest of the survivors watch helplessly, horrified at the extent to which nature and the wolves are overpowering them. This moment breaks another emotional nerve in the group, emphasizing their vulnerability and their diminishing chance of survival. As the remaining men collapse at night near a river, one of them, Talget, begins dreaming of his daughter, a warm memory from the life he left behind. He is suddenly ambushed by a wolf in his sleep, dragged off, and killed before Otway and Diaz can save him. His death shakes Diaz deeply, and though he had previously challenged Otway's leadership, Diaz begins showing a different attitude, demonstrating how tragedy forces the remaining men to confront who they are and what they truly fear. Their numbers dwindling and hope fading, Diaz finally stops walking and decides he cannot continue. He refuses to run from the wolves anymore and sits down, choosing to face his fate rather than exhaust himself further. Otway and the last remaining survivor argue with him, urging him to continue, but Diaz accepts death on his own terms. The other men reluctantly leave him behind, and Diaz dies peacefully, encouraged by a sense of control and dignity in a situation where so much has been out of their control. His final moment is one of the few in the film that offers a quiet emotional release rather than terror. Otway and the last surviving man, Hendrik, continue down the mountain and through the snowy forest. As they cross a rushing river, Hendrik slips, becoming trapped under the water, pinned by debris. Otway desperately tries to save him, but despite his best efforts, Hendrik drowns before he can be rescued. Otway collapses, devastated, now the last survivor. He rages at the sky, shouting in anger at God or fate, demanding meaning, demanding help, demanding to understand why all of them were abandoned. His outburst reveals the emotional breaking point he has reached, having witnessed every other man die and being unable to save them. He wanders further into the plains and eventually stumbles into a clearing in the woods. Snow falls quietly, and exhaustion threatens to overwhelm him. As he looks around, he realizes he has stumbled directly into the wolves' den. Bones and remnants of previous kills lie scattered across the ground, and he understands that he has not escaped danger but walked directly into the heart of it. The alpha wolf emerges from the shadows, massive and commanding, and the other wolves gather around him. Otway looks around, accepting the reality of his situation. There is no help, no shelter, and no chance to escape. He takes out his wallet and looks through the photographs of the men who died, collecting the wallets of every survivor along the way. Each wallet contains a photo or memento from the life their owner was separated from, and Otway lays them out respectfully, honoring them in the only way he can. He then prepares himself for the final confrontation, taping a small knife and broken glass bottles to his hands as improvised weapons. His breathing becomes slow and focused, and for a moment, he recalls a memory from his childhood involving his father, who wrote a poem that Otway recites softly to himself, a call to fight until the last moment, to confront fear rather than surrender to it. The film ends as Otway charges toward the Alpha, ready for the final battle, the outcome left unstated, emphasizing not victory or defeat, but the courage to face death directly.